there's a lot of topics I want to talk about, but I think for today I will talk about mobility and sumo deadlifts. And I know I'm not doing sumo deadlifts anywhere in this video or in my program, but that's the topic I want to talk about. But for today, for week 2, day 3, I'm doing 2 count pause squats, 5 sets of 3, at a goal of 8 RPE for the last set. So last week it was 4 sets of 4 at a goal of 8 RPE for the last set. So last week I did 295, and the last set ended up being RPE 7. So you'll see I did 310 for 5 sets of 3, and it ended up being pretty much an RP 8, I think 8.5 more likely. It's like I don't know if I could do two more reps, maybe 2. And I was feeling my lower back by the end of like 3 or 4 sets of 310. But as you can see, I'm also filming my warm-ups, and warm-ups since I've started this program feel great for squats. I think for bench press, usually it goes pretty well on most days, like even like before this program. But for squats and deadlifts, especially squats, sometimes days can feel harder than other days. And usually I'll know whether or not a day is going to go decently well is when I squat 225 and how fast I'm out of the hole, right? And I was pretty fast there. And then with the belt 275, how fast that moves. If it moves even a bit slower than I expect, then that usually tells me whether or not I'll be able to do well for the working sets. And I think it helps a bit that I haven't gone past 315 on this program in terms of squatting. I'll be doing that starting week 3. But I think keeping the load manageable and not ego lifting, and using RPE as part of the routine with pause squats and even deadlifts, it really helps. I also want to say that I'm really proud of my squat form, in terms of walkout, in terms of bracing. I think I've got it all down, personally, but I think you can always improve with something as complex as squats, right? Because for some people, squats are easy to learn. For some people, deadlifts are easy, but squats are harder. So it depends on the person. But here is a side view of my squats. I think I'm just hitting depth, right? If I go any higher, I think that would not be good. But as you can see, my hips rise a little bit and my knees shoot back a little bit. And that's where my lower back is being used. I'm not sure if it's more than I'm supposed to use it. But I don't feel my legs that much in a low bar squat. But to me, it looks fine. There's no pain or anything, right? And as you can see, I am, like, in my head while I do these reps, I am trying to count 2 to 2, right? So 1, 2, and that's my pause. I try to not pause shorter than that, and I try to pause as much as I can with the 2 count, and the same across all the reps. And I think with something like squats, it's very, very important to focus because you're under the bar. I think that goes with bench too, right? Your bar path. On the squat, you can lean forward and fall forward, especially. And I think bracing has a lot to do with not being able to focus and really pushing out good reps, right? Because as you can see, I really take a big breath into my abs and my core when I squat, and usually that helps me get out of the hole faster. Because when I don't brace properly, when like 2-3 years ago, when my squat went from like 155 for 5 to like 280 for 3, and like how many was it in like 6 months? That's when I think my weights went up faster than I expected, and I became a little shaky in the walkout. And I was also still doing high bar then, so I think learning the mechanics of high bar and bracing. I tend to lose the brace as I go down the hole, but I think in the past year really got bracing down for squats. So now you can see that I'm warming up for comp, pause, bench at 205 for 6 sets of 4. And then feet up bench for 3 sets of 4 at a cap of RP 8 for the last set. I don't have one video for the comp pause bench and one video for the feet up bench. So you'll see 5 sets of the comp pause working sets and 2 sets for the feet up bench, I think. So now back to the actual topic of the video, right? That I want to talk about is sumo deadlifts and mobility. And what I want to say is, just because somebody else can deadlift more weight sumo, or just because you can deadlift more weight sumo right when you try it or when you start doing it, doesn't mean sumo deadlift is the ideal option for you, right? I think a lot of videos of YouTube power lifters and different strength athletes have talked about it, right? Sumo deadlifts, I think for powerlifting works because more often than not you can lift more weight sumo, but depending on how you're built and depending on your mobility and your skill in learning the lift, the actual proper sumo deadlift exercise, you can have varied amounts of success training this lift. Personally, I feel like sumo deadlifts are awkward for me. They feel awkward. Conventional deadlifts allow me to brace easier because my legs are more closed off. My hips are less in play. Like hip mobility is super important in sumo deadlifts. If your hip mobility sucks, what is going to happen is you're going to have a longer moment arm, and the distance from with your hips to the bar is going to be longer, which means that it's going to be more like a conventional deadlift. For me personally, which I can speak from personal experience, I have a really long torso, pretty short arms, and average length legs. So for me, sumo is technically supposed to work better for my leverages, but my hip mobility is not very good. And what ends up happening is when I pull sumo, my left hip starts to flare up. And it doesn't happen with anything else from except for maybe squatting at times. And the other issue is because I can't open up my hips properly enough for sumo deadlifts, my sumo deadlifts end up feeling more like conventional, and I have trouble bracing properly in sumo deadlifts, or I can't feel my brace as much compared to in conventional deadlifts. And just the position where I'm standing feels stronger in conventional, even though I can't lift as much weight. It's like a 30-pound difference, which I'm closing in that gap when I'm training more conventional, right? I have a feeling that I might as well just train conventional. I've been doing sumo for almost 3.5 years now, and even after that, like in between these 3.5 years, I've moved to conventional and sumo back and forth, and my ultimate conclusion is I'm going to pull conventional. I'm going to compete, but personally, it's not just about lifting the most weight, but is it comfortable lifting that much weight? How's the form? And is it enjoyable, right? Granted, for the first 6 months of me pulling sumo, I was pulling it more like conventional, grip and rip. So I didn't really learn the form properly, but after that I did. And ultimately, I still like conventional more. My conclusion is learn both sumo and conventional and try out different stances, like a wider stance with conventional or a narrower stance like a frog sumo, and figure out what is the most comfortable and which one you can lift the most weight with. And then assess based on your goals, powerlifting or just overall trying to get stronger, right? And based on that, decide whether or not you want to pull only conventional, only sumo, or both, or variations. I think that's the best approach, right? Don't just try to copy someone else because somebody's hip could be super mobile, right? Or they have long ass arms. I think I'll talk more about this in my next video. But for now, thank you for watching and peace out.